All right, Sister Sunshine, video 2. Where are the monkey babies? I found this on the beach years ago. Now it's going to be my great illustrative tool. Um, Imagine this as a branch on the tree of life or the tree of species. Um, this would be the common ancestor. Mankind did not evolve from monkeys, according to evolution. We did not evolve from monkeys. Monkeys and mankind developed from a common ancestor. So let's make this the common ancestor. At some point, there was a branching off, and let's say these were the monkeys, and these are the people. So you're here. Even if you can go back up the tree or down the tree towards the common ancestor, you can't jump over here to the monkeys, because it's a different branch of the tree. So even if it were possible to have a throwback, and part of me thinks that this concept of throwback is just a pejorative term that people use to describe children who, just it was a pejorative term, prejudicial term. I don't think there really are like throwbacks. I don't really know if you can go back up the tree. I think you can only keep going forward. But even if you could go back, the most you could go back to would be the common ancestors, and monkeys could theoretically then, if that were possible, go back to the common ancestor. But you can't jump from branch to branch. People can't become monkeys. Monkeys can't become people. You know. Um, Now, I haven't studied evolution in about 30 or 40 years, so I'm woefully out of date. So, I mean, aside from the glimpses, bits I've caught in articles, etc. So, somebody out there can correct me if I'm wrong. Please do. Um, Evolution is not necessarily an additive process. In other words, it's not that the common ancestor um, exists in our genetic code, and then everything else has been laid on top of it, by addition. And then if you simply strip off the last 100,000 years, you actually have, the common ancestor lurking below. You know, the molecule, the DNA molecule, has transformed through time. It's different parts of. Now here's where you know I need to be, I'm woefully outdated. I mean, I assume parts are gone, or parts have transformed so much that you're just not going to easily go back to some earlier form. Um, I believe we even have a different number of chromosomes than say our monkey cousins do. Um, and so it's not an additive process. It's Now you can have recessive genes, like you can have, say, blue eyes being recessive, um, and it takes two parents with blue eyes to have a child that has blue eyes. Um, but that's a different phenomenon, and it's not that blue eyes or brown eyes or hazel eyes or green eyes are somehow more advanced or not. They're just different. Um, I should point out too that evolution doesn't say that there's a process of betterment going on. There's no direction to it. The only direction to evolution is to adapt to the environment. So mankind is not getting better, and mankind is not better than the common ancestor. Mankind, we're just the result of the conditions that we went under. So there's no teleology, I guess. There's no idea that things are improving with time. I did read somewhere that life forms, as they evolve, will sometimes cycle back to appear to be similar to an earlier form, but that's just forward. I think things only go forward, to tell you the truth. That's sort of a forward cycling and coming back. The new form may look like the old form, but it's not that it fell back to an earlier form. It's just that maybe the climate, the conditions returned to something similar before, and so the adaptation went there again, and you kind of have a cycling. I know I did a lousy job of explaining that, but it's again not a process of throwing back, but of continual adaptation. And if the conditions become similar to what they were hundreds of thousands of years ago, it's likely that life will sort of then adapt into forms that are very similar to the way they were before. Um, um, I wanted to talk a little bit about belief. Belief, I think, is a matter of certainty, how much certainty one feels. I mean, true belief or very strong belief is a strong certainty. Now, science tells you not to be certain. It tells you things will change. The models we are aiming for, better models. Um, uh, so right off the bat, science tells you don't be certain. You cannot be certain of this because a better as a system of understanding, things will improve. So. Um, and as I mentioned before, the Big Bang Theory is, I think, completely consistent with the idea of creationism. Um, Completely consistent. So, and I think evolution too. I don't think that's inconsistent with belief in a creator God or a God that maybe sustains the world or that created the world and left it alone, what have you. I just don't see why. I mean, I don't see why we have to limit God and say, no, no, God wouldn't do that. God wouldn't cause evolution. No, no, no. For some reason, God wouldn't do that. It's strange. We we believe in gods that are omnipotent, infinite, and omnipotent, and immediately we start limiting that God and saying, well, yeah, yeah, but God wouldn't do this, and God won't do that, and it's against the rules for God to do this, and you know, so I don't understand the resistance to um, accepting evolution as provisionally true. Now, could God have created the entire universe and created these sort of, let's call them harmonies, musical harmonies, so that the DNA of monkeys look like the DNA of people, and that appears to be an echo or a reflection of the DNA in lizards, and and that it all sort of falls together to look like a beautiful tree? Did perhaps God just did that to make the world poetical, or perhaps just to perplex us and confound us, or to give us something interesting to study? Yeah, I don't see why not. Maybe that happened too. I don't know. Um, but we don't study science for that reason. We don't really. I mean, I guess some people perhaps study science to study the poetry of God. I don't see why not. I think some of the early ones viewed nature as another book of God, and they were studying the book of God by studying nature. You know, why not? But the main practical reason we study it now is to, well, one, to have a better understanding of the universe, but also to better predict its behavior. And we're just driven to understand things. Yeah, I have to check sometimes to make sure I've got the microphone on. I think that about wraps it up. Yeah, let me know if you do a response. I'd be curious to hear the response. But I think that sort of explains why there are no monkey babies. There wouldn't be monkey babies. At most, there would be common ancestor babies. And I don't think that's likely to occur because I don't think evolution is an additive process where the actual common ancestor is embedded in our DNA, and everything that's Homo sapiens has simply been added and can be stripped off. I think the molecule has actually changed. Oh, and by the way, amino acids. You mentioned that the only way to make them is from DNA. No, I don't think so. We can make molecules. We have people designing molecules now. Maybe they're designing more complex molecules. I don't know how easy it is to design smaller molecules. I don't know if we have that ability. But, they find amino acids on meteorites too, I believe. I read somewhere. I couldn't 100% confirm it, but they occur in nature. They're just molecules. How do things decide to crawl up out of the soup? Things gradually change over a period of millions of years. So you don't have a salamander just deciding to crawl up on land. You have to have transitional life forms. Maybe in a swamp area something lives. Maybe it gradually develops some ability to breathe air. True, we don't have gills, but I think I read that the human embryo at one stage has gills. That's very interesting, isn't it? And also, I think the level of salt, the ratio of salt in our bloodstream matches the oceans, very similar to the oceans. Of course, the oceans, composition of the oceans changes over time too, so that may be meaningless. And my 10 minutes is running out, and I'm just throwing in everything else that I'm remembering that I didn't include addressing your concerns. But 2 videos is enough. I'm sure you will agree. Respond. Take care. Bye-bye.